There is a piece of paper in your wallet. It has a dead president on it, some Latin nobody reads, and a quiet global assumption that it is worth something. That assumption is called the dollar. But why does the rest of the world, countries that have never elected an American president and never will, agree to hold, trade, and desperately accumulate US dollars? The answer involves a secret deal in a Saudi palace, a president who broke global finance, and enough oil to drown a small continent. Welcome to the petrodollar system, the invisible architecture of the modern world, and the reason your electricity bill is, in some very real sense, an American foreign policy instrument. To understand this, go back to 1944. The world was exhausted from war. So 44 nations met in Bretton Woods, New Hampshire, and built a new financial order from scratch. The deal was elegant. The US dollar would be the world's reserve currency, backed by gold at a fixed rate of $35 per ounce. The world trusted the dollar because the dollar trusted gold. Then came 1971. The Vietnam War was expensive. American spending was out of control. Other countries, France especially, started demanding their dollars converted back into actual gold. The US gold reserves were bleeding out fast. So on August 15, 1971, Nixon went on television and simply ended it. The dollar was no longer convertible to gold. Just like that. No vote, no warning. Done. Economists called it the Nixon Shock. The dollar was now backed by nothing except the full faith and credit of the United States government, which is a sophisticated way of saying it was backed by vibes. Mostly vibes. The world had a crisis of confidence. If the dollar wasn't backed by gold, what exactly was it backed by? The answer was about to arrive from the Saudi Arabian desert. 2 years later, in October 1973, Egypt and Syria launched a surprise attack on Israel. The US supported Israel. OPEC, dominated by Arab nations, responded by turning off the taps entirely. Oil prices quadrupled almost overnight. American gas stations ran dry. People waited in lines stretching around city blocks just to fill their tanks. The modern world discovered painfully how completely it ran on oil. The embargo lasted until March 1974, but it taught every government on Earth one lesson written in cold sweat. Whoever controls oil controls everything. Electricity, food, transportation, industry, all of it. Washington understood the danger. The dollar had lost its gold backing. American credibility was shaky. And now oil, not gold, had revealed itself as the true foundation of modern civilization. Someone in Washington had a very interesting idea. In 1974, Secretary of State Henry Kissinger, a man who approached geopolitics the way a chess grandmaster approaches a game, except the pieces were countries, traveled to Saudi Arabia with a proposition. The US would guarantee Saudi Arabia's security, military protection, weapons, the full package. In return, Saudi Arabia would price all oil exclusively in US dollars and invest surplus revenues into US Treasury bonds. It was a masterpiece of financial engineering. America prints paper. Saudi Arabia sells oil for that paper. The rest of the world must acquire that paper just to buy the oil they need to survive. Other OPEC nations soon joined. And the dollar, which had lost its gold backing 3 years earlier, found something even more valuable to back it. Something every country on Earth needed every single day. Oil. Here is where the system becomes genuinely brilliant and slightly diabolical, depending on your perspective and which country you happen to be from. If Japan wants to buy oil, it needs dollars first. Brazil needs dollars. India needs dollars. Germany needs dollars. Any country that imports oil must first acquire US dollars. There is no alternative counter, no express lane, no exceptions. This creates permanent, structural global demand for US dollars, regardless of what America does, spends, or prints. The world needs dollars. Therefore, the world absorbs dollars. The machine is self-sustaining. Economists call this exorbitant privilege. France's finance minister coined that phrase in the 1960s. He was not using it as a compliment. He was using it as an accusation. He was also completely correct. Oil-producing nations earn billions in surplus dollars, then recycle much of it back into U.S. Treasury bonds, lending money back to America at low interest rates. America borrows cheaply. The world funds it. Everyone smiles awkwardly and pretends this is normal. This also means America can run budget deficits that would destroy any other country's currency, because the excess dollars are constantly being soaked up by global oil demand. It is a privilege with no equivalent in financial history. For 5 decades, the system ran smoothly, or at least smoothly enough that disadvantaged countries couldn't do much about it. Then the 21st century arrived, and several large, ambitious, irritated nations started asking uncomfortable questions. China now imports more oil than any country on Earth, and Beijing has been pushing hard to pay for that oil in Chinese yuan instead of US dollars. In 2023, Saudi Arabia conducted its first yuan-settled oil trade with China. It was a small transaction. The symbolism was enormous, because the entire petrodollar system rests on one foundational rule: oil is priced in dollars. Break that rule even once, and the question becomes, why not again? Russia, cut off from Western finance after 2022, began conducting energy trades in rubles, yuan, and rupees. Iran followed similar paths. The phrase now on every economist's lips: de-dollarization. BRICS nations, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, and their expanding membership have been discussing a shared currency to reduce dollar dependency. They have not built it yet, but the conversation itself is historically significant. Here is the crucial nuance: de-dollarization is not happening overnight. The dollar still represents about 58% of global foreign exchange reserves. The yuan sits at roughly 2.5%. Replacing the world's financial plumbing is not like changing a light bulb. It is like rebuilding the entire electrical grid while the lights are still on. Possible, extraordinarily difficult, likely to cause some very uncomfortable moments. The petrodollar system was never formally announced. No press conference, no global vote, no United Nations resolution. It emerged from a secret deal, spread through OPEC, and quietly became the invisible foundation of the modern economy. It gave America the ability to run deficits that would bankrupt any other nation, fund a global military presence, and maintain a standard of living partly subsidized by the rest of the world's structural need to hold its currency. Whether that system survives the next decade, as China rises, as clean energy chips away at oil's dominance, as BRICS experiments with alternatives, is the most consequential financial question of our lifetimes. The dollar is still the world's language, but for the first time in 50 years, other countries are quietly learning new words, and the most powerful financial system in human history is listening to every syllable.